Penguin Random House Audio presents How to Make Good Things Happen. Know Your Brain, Enhance Your Life by Marian Rojas Estapé, MD. Translated from the Spanish by Sophia Smith Lang. Read for you by Marisol Ramirez. Note to listeners, this program includes a downloadable PDF that contains diagrams and the bibliography from the book. To my 6 men. The start of a journey. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. Planes, trains, and other modes of transportation are generally excellent places for surprising things to happen. You just have to let yourself be carried along, observing and intervening if a good opportunity arises. My best stories have come out of such situations. A few years ago, on a flight from New York to London, I was traveling in the window seat. I always choose this seat because I like watching the sky, the clouds, and the sea. Above all, I like to remind myself of the insignificance of human beings in the face of nature's immensity, so as to gain some perspective about what happens to us on Earth. I always pay attention to the traveler seated next to me. Over the long hours in flight, one develops a certain connection to one's neighbor, analyzing what they're reading and what they watch on their screen, observing whether they eat or sleep, speculating about their circumstances and the reasons for their trip is unavoidable. Do they have a family? Are they traveling for work? At one moment or another, one of you gets up, and good manners require that you exchange a few simple words. Generally, at the end of the flight, you wish each other a friendly goodbye. I've always believed that if you pay close enough attention to anyone, they become interesting. One usually has a conversation at some point during the flight. Thanks to these interactions, I've met truly fascinating people, and things have happened to me that have made an impact on many aspects of my life. On this particular flight, taking off from New York, I sat next to an older gentleman. He was reading the newspaper, and I got some course notes out of my bag. They were on anatomy. The drawings I'd done in class weren't very good. I've always been bad at drawing. And while I was trying to memorize the hundreds of names, I noticed the man's gaze directed at my papers. I smiled at him. "I study medicine." He answered, "My father is a doctor." I did a quick analysis of the man. I've loved doing this since I was young. But he maintained, despite our cordiality, a cold, unapproachable look. I grew curious and asked, "Have you followed in your father's footsteps professionally?" "No. I've always preferred investigation." "What kind?" "I investigate terrorism." I closed my notes. A conversation had fallen in my lap that promised to be very interesting. My collection of muscles and strange little bones would still be there when I got to Madrid. My interlocutor revealed to me that he had just retired after more than 30 years with the CIA. For a while now, he had been allowed to speak more freely of his work, and during the rest of the flight, he explained the war in Iraq and geopolitical tensions in the area, conflicts over oil and pipelines, the interests of different Western countries, all of it on an improvised map of the Middle East with arrows pointing in every direction. I'm a politics and history buff, and I have to confess that I didn't stop taking notes the whole time. At one point in the conversation, I told him I was studying to be a psychiatrist. He scrutinized me and was silent for a few moments before beginning to ask me the strangest questions about my tastes and personality. I'm not used to being asked about myself with so much intensity, as it is usually me who's posing the questions, but I tried to respond as sincerely as possible. After a pause, he proposed that I do a stint at the CIA when I had finished my specialized studies and undertake some kind of work as a forensic or investigative psychiatrist. In that moment, my eyes lit up. The world suddenly seemed so exciting. I smiled and said, "As long as I don't have to do field work, I tend to be a little nervous." He left me his contact details and we said goodbye. I wrote to him several times and we maintained an email correspondence for a few years. Unfortunately, listener, I never did go and work at the CIA. My life took another course, but I keep that card from my analyst friend in my wallet to remind myself that opportunities are close by. You just have to go look for them. In my opinion, few notions have done more damage than the idea that it will arrive when you least expect it. No one is going to come looking for us at home to offer us our life's work. We have to go out and find it. One of the things in life that causes us the most anguish is the inability to know what we should devote ourselves to or what path we should choose. Making a decision becomes an impossible challenge. We live in a world full of opportunities. We have never had so much available for so little effort. We find ourselves living at the most overstimulated point in history. Today, any 7-year-old has absorbed more information and stimuli, music, sound, food, flavors, images, videos, than any human being who previously walked the earth. This overstimulation makes decisions hard. Today's younger generations, the so-called millennial generation, where I have one foot planted, and Gen Z, find themselves bewildered, unsure what to choose or where to go. Professionally, they have to decide between innumerable fields of study, and, once their studies are complete, between innumerable job opportunities. Both of these choices seem impossible. Multiple possibilities crowd in, and they don't know where to direct their lives. Ours is a society of confusion and commitment phobia. I see more and more young people who are blocked without knowing it, because to decide, one needs to know what one feels. Millennials and members of Gen Z are saturated with emotions and feelings that make them reliant on constant gratification to move forward. We'll speak more about this later, and we will try to understand better what is happening in the minds of many young people. There is a clear breach between two generations who are living in the same world, those born before 1980 and those born after 1990. Those of us born between 1980 and 1990 have lived through an important period of transition. Those born before 1980 have generally struggled quite a bit. Many were born to the children of 20th century wars and have given their families a good start. Most important of all, the digital world of the internet and social networks has caught up to them after adolescence. This is key. Their personal relationships, their ways of working and confronting life, as well as their beliefs, are all based on other concepts. I don't mean specific ideologies. I mean the way that they're formed. After 1990, something decisive happens: the birth of the Internet. In this book, we'll examine the impact of the constant assault of stimuli that the youngest members of our society are subjected to as soon as they're born, as well as the effect of social networks on the gratification system of the brain, which is the reason that we find ourselves dealing with a profoundly unsatisfied generation. To motivate them, in educational, emotional, affective, professional, and economic terms, more and more frequent and intense stimuli are often required. How to make good things happen draws on many different tools. Life contains very difficult moments, when the most important thing is to survive and find some support to sustain oneself. The rest of the time, we need to fight to bring out our BPS, best possible selves. We'll look at this formula, BPS, in Chapter 9. We'll talk about attitude and optimism. The way that we confront life has a big impact on what happens to us. Predisposition, The attitude we already have in place determines how.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?